Hey guys, this is FP Tips team and welcome back to another live stream. This is probably the first live stream of the new season. Hi Kilesh, welcome to the live stream.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Very excited to actually be in my first ever live stream. And we've had a 5 to 6 day break from our previous video, and a lot of things have happened in that 5 to 6 days. A lot of, I mean, at the end of last week, my draft looked pretty settled. I looked at my draft and I was quite confident with the players I was going with. But I think it's all changed now with respect to what has happened with Jesus injury and Tutu injury, and some options emerging as well, and a few more preseason games which have gone by, and we've observed a lot of things in that as well. So yeah, we can just directly dive into it and look into some of the teams, and then in fixture by fixture in game week 1, and also our drafts.
So let us know in the chat first if you guys are audible and everything's clear and set to go, and then we can probably move ahead and start diving into the content we guys have prepared for you guys. So in the
Yeah,
chat, probably just let us know if the audio is fine, if anything needs to be changed or tuned, if you guys can see us clearly and everything, stuff like that.
yeah, all good.
Yeah, all good. Oh, perfect. Then that's good. Hi Odyssey. Hi Gautam. Hi Deep. Hi CFC Blue. People are joining in, so I think we'll just wait for a couple of more minutes. I think I've just posted it on Instagram. Till then, we can talk about what we know as of now. Two situations we can talk about right now. One, I know the Harry Kane deal is probably off. That's also some sort of FPL news that we need to keep in mind that he's not going to buy in as of now. He's probably again committing to Tottenham Hotspurs, although it doesn't rule out to a London move, which I hope could be Chelsea. But as of now, he's not moving anywhere. And the
Chelsea
second
need
is,
a striker right now, right?
yeah, and the second is David Raya has finalized and its signing has been completed and he's moving to Arsenal. So that's something also very important in terms of FPL news in general.
Coming back to Chelsea needing the striker, Jackson is there, but now with Nkunku getting injured and out for about 16 weeks, as reported earlier today, they do need to look at someone as a medium or long-term option as well in the market for the striker to get their season going, because it's a very important season for Chelsea as well.
So we
And
have
yeah,
we have Broha, so he's there. He's there in the team. We've
yeah.
signed a kid who's David Washington. I think he's 18 years old as a backup.
Mm.
Probably for our as of now he won't be into the first team, but we've signed him as well in case we need him. So we have the depth. That's not never a problem at Chelsea, but let's see how it goes. Let's see how it figures out. And Deep also has asked Darwin versus Jota. We that is probably our
Yeah,
first section, and people are joining, we'll just straight dive into it. Let's look into our first section. Actually, we had the FDR here, but okay. So Liverpool stats. We had this post with all about FPL on our Instagram page as a collaborator as well. Shout out to those guys who put this up as a graphic. But here is the summary of the preseason Liverpool played throughout, like in the last 1 month, and it involves minutes played, goals, and assists. When you see top of the list is obviously Mo Salah. Again, we're not diving deep into Mo Salah this time because we know we've said it. If you can afford him, you probably should try get him, and that is sort of a temptation right now, especially with Kane into the picture again. So Salah to Kane is
mm.
also thing that will happen eventually. But let's talk about the other four players which are in contention and people are interested in: Jota, Luis Diaz, Gakpo, and Nunes. Those are the prominent four that people are interested in too. You might want to take this up ahead and start with it, being a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, I also watched the match yesterday against Drumstar. Actually, in fact, Klopp started all four of Salah, Gakpo, Jota, and Diaz. Diaz played in the left, Salah played in the right, Jota played centrally, and Gakpo was playing as the number 8 this match. I feel Gakpo is someone Klopp really likes and will try to fit in, because especially because of his defensive work. He tries to he tracks back and he's very strong. He's able to move through the midfield quite well, and he's a very good progressor of the ball. And Jota is more the person who plays inside the box. So if Jota starts, I think he's also looked confident in the preseason, as 4 goals, 3 assists. If Jota starts, he'll be amongst the goals. And Liverpool are an attacking team, so This is more like the old Liverpool where we saw some heavy metal football, where the defense wasn't really great, and Liverpool had to outscore the opponent to beat them. And when it's that, when it comes to that, maybe a Liverpool option is someone really worth considering. But the problem is obviously minutes. We are not sure who's nailed on to start for Liverpool. Darwin Nunez, who started the preseason really well, scored 4 goals in the first 3-4 games. And then against Bayern, he didn't start. He came on in the second half. And against Ramstad, again, he didn't start. He came on late for the last 30 minutes. He looked quite sharp, had a few chances, but he's still not fully confident in front of goal. That is one thing. But the more important thing Klopp looks at when it comes to Darwin is his defensive work, which Liverpool needs more from their attackers to also give work defensively with the press and winning the ball back high up the pitch, where Darwin is not up to it right now. So that's why I think Klopp, especially against teams where defensively we need to be at our A game, Klopp will be going for Gakpo and Jota. He'll prefer them more. With respect to Luis Diaz, I think he's also a strong contender to start. He's looked great. All the 3 goals he scored, in fact, are very good goals. And he's someone you can see that the kind of goals he scores are very good. But I'm not sure how much his contribution with goals will be. I'm pretty sure that when it comes to Jota, he has that knack of scoring goals. He is inside the box. He knows where the goal is, and when he gets going, he just is very like he's explosive. So I will be more sure with Jota with when it comes to Liverpool as the best option outside Salah, and then probably Gakpo because his minutes are quite assured because Klopp will find a way to fit him in, and then it'll be a coin toss between Nunez and Diaz because Diaz is a decent option, better for minutes, but when Nunez does start, he'll be among the goals. So that's how I stand with Liverpool right now as their attackers. And
So
of course, Mo Salah, if you can afford to get him, you'll have to go with him. Yeah, what do you think about it?
So, like, what I have observed throughout the preseason, certainly Gakpo is something, and we knew this earlier as well. Klopp has mentioned it earlier as well that he really likes Gakpo, and he'll probably find a way to play him, which is the number 8 position. I think that's what he's trying to do right now in the right number 8 position. Uh, that leaves me up with Diaz, Jota, and Nunes competing for 3 slots, in my opinion. How I see it is when you need defensive work, as you mentioned, Jota will start, Diaz will start. Between Nunes and Diaz, again, expect Diaz to get more minutes, but whenever Nunes starts, he attracts some sort of chances, and Diaz will stick wide or maybe uh, hold that place where Nunes is centered, and more chances fall to him. But given all of that, summing it up, but if someone has to go for a Liverpool player, let's say in that price bracket, there are 2 positions up for it, 3 in fact. Would you take a chance on Jota? Because we know for certain most likely he'll start game week 1. I'm not sure if he starts game week 2, which is the prime fixture. That's the problem with Jota for me. So personally, that's the only
Um,
reason I'm not picking him. Same with Diaz. I
uh,
don't think
I
he starts all games, and then Nunes again. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think when it comes to starting players, Klopp is not someone who early on, uh, like I'm not sure he'll rotate his players way too much. He'll maybe have one or two early on, and generally we see that if someone is in good form, he'll keep going for it. And towards the end of last season, also Jota was in good form. He had a niggle here and there, but when he was fit, he was starting and he was scoring goals also. And towards the end, when the system changed, it was mostly Salah, Gakpo, and Jota starting. And I have 60-40 towards Jota starting Bournemouth. Obviously, there's a chance that Nunez can start because Bournemouth are a team where we can afford to start Nunez. But yeah, I think Jota is someone who's worth the punt because if he does get the goals in the at least in a goal or an assist in the first game, there's a very high chance he might start against
But
Bournemouth.
but he's
And currently,
competing in
that's
a slot. But he's competing in a slot where you at that price point you have like a lot of options, point 0.5 down or above. There's Martinelli, there's Madison. It's a very tricky price point where other players are guaranteed about like 70 minutes and where Jota is not guaranteed to start at times. So that's the problem
which
I
is why
have to
he's a
reckon
punt.
with. I mean,
Yeah, which is why he's a punt. He's surely a punt because you're taking gamble against the number of minutes he's going to play. But he's an explosive punt because Liverpool are tipped to score a lot of goals early on in the season as well, and they are going to be an attacking team. And if you think Jota will start Bournemouth, I think he's a decent punt to also take. I mean, there are obviously so many options you can just go into, and when it comes to starting with Jota, this is one thing that has been running in my mind. If you start with Jota, there is like you will also have like a couple of weeks of information about the other midfielders around. So if you're not sure if you want to go for an Mbumo or a Mitoma or an Eze or even a Madison, you will get more information in those first 2 weeks. That if Jota thus lose his minutes, there is an obvious direct jump of going to a good player who you've also seen for a couple of weeks.
but
That's where I stand with the Jota as well. And because there are so many options there, I feel more comfortable going with Jota as the midfielder rather than Nunez as a striker, where there are much lesser options.
so for, like our consensus is very pretty sure that Nunes is probably an avoid because we don't see him starting in the first game at least. Personally, I see him starting in the
Absolutely, yes.
second game only because uh, the second game is not a game where you want defensive stability. Like you want defense first approach or like you want an extra man defending for your team. Bournemouth is pretty an easy fixture for Liverpool. I don't think they will take it that way where Jota is needed to track back and fall back and press like that way. I think that is why I'm not very confident Jota starts the second and Darwin could start the second one. And also because Jota has played two games about 70 minutes, he'll play the 90 versus Chelsea or at least the 70th. So even by the sports science logic that Klopp is very high on, I think Darwin starts the second game, which is why both of them again became a non-option for me. Diaz maybe starts the second one, but again, do you want a player who's very wide at the pitch, who's
Hmm.
not so direct? Even when you look at the preseason, he scored like 3 goals. Two of them like were pretty fairly easy. One of them was very good. But again, do you want a player who's very out and he's cutting in at times depending on the team structure and game situation? So that's the problem I have. And I wouldn't be surprised the second game Darwin and Jota start and he's out of the team again. Or fairly
Yeah,
possible because
I
Jota
think
can
Diaz
play
is
both.
an avoid purely because of the number of like you were talking the directness. Jota is the punt I am looking at in Liverpool. I think he's the best option. When you look at the players, Gakpo is nailed for minutes, but if you think someone you can rely on, you can try to count upon and go for that punt, I think Jota is the option when it comes to Liverpool right now. And also because it's an easy switch to another midfielder in that same price bracket or even cheaper.
So like how I see it, personally, you can start with. I mean, I don't think you should start with Jota if you are someone who's starting with Jota. The only silver lining is that he's still managed 60 minutes whether he starts or not because the games will be longer in general duration this time. So let's say if the game is about 100 minutes and he comes on a sub at about 60, when that is when usually club subs, he's still getting about 40-45 minutes, which is decent amount of time. That's a half. So that's the only silver lining I have. But personally, I would say wait and watch. If he starts a run of games, or you can see that he's prominently starting either left wing or striker, then is when you probably jump on him.
But when you're talking about the silver lining, it's also that in those 45 minutes,
He's the
if you
explosive
want to
one.
get, if you want to counter a player who can still go and score in that 45 minutes given,
Yeah.
I think it's Jota because he is someone who just has a knack of scoring goals, and Klopp will appreciate playing Jota, and I think he has a fairly good chance of starting Bournemouth as well as it stands. But we never know when it comes to game week 2. Currently, he is in my draft, but I am not 100% with Jota. But we can come later when we look at the drafts and explain about how we are leaning to, like how we are
Why and why not?
ending up with that. Yeah, why and why.
But okay, moving on. This is probably like just anything before we move on. Anything on Liverpool that we need to touch upon between like these four. I think our rankings would be Jota first. Then personally, I'm very torn between Diaz and Nunes because Nunes will get chances. It depends on his minutes. And then last is Gakpo only because he's not playing that attacking. Again, he's playing as a number 8 with more defensive responsibility without a proper number 6. I think he's a no-brainer and don't go that side. it's pure avoid. And Mo Salah is like a league apart, so I rather not
Hmm.
just comment a lot about it.
With other enablers coming into which we'll talk in the next section, Mo Salah is looking like getting into drafts which could be good as well as, I mean, you can have Mo Salah. But
Okay.
the other thing to touch upon Liverpool currently, as we have repeatedly said, we would avoid Trent at the beginning of the season because of two reasons. One, Liverpool's defense is bad. They are not looking good. They need another defender coming in and making it more solid. And the other reason is that Trent is much deeper than he was towards the end of last season. Now Trent is more like he's dropping very deep because there are two midfielders ahead of him who are very creative, very direct, and very attacking, which makes Trent the one who dictates, plays deep and makes the play from a much deeper position, which does affect his assist potential as well. So that's why Trent is an avoid at the beginning of the season.
And yeah, I think that sums it up mostly. But talking about like certain players and the second question we had, it's like a popular thing, and a lot of people want to know about this team is the Brighton team. And obviously there are so many questions around the Brighton team. I will start with it because we know that we are on two different ends on this one. I was very pro on Pedro till day before yesterday, and now I'm not, for the following reasons. For now, I think Pedro starts Gameweek 1, 2, maybe even 3 at tops. But my problem with Pedro is the fact that there is always Lalana who's there in that position, who's experienced, and who could be used. So there are two scenarios in my head where Lalana is used in the European side of games for like his experience, and he doesn't start the Premier League. In that case, Pedro starts almost all Premier League games, but doesn't start the European ones. But if he's that good a player, he will be used in the European games. That's the counter argument to it. So which is why I feel that he will get either subbed off or used like in odd positions or not play and not start due to Lalana. The second problem is in general finishing as a player, when I've seen him at Watford as well, isn't that great. So he is fast, yes, he's involved, but is his finishing that good? No. Which puts me like slightly off Pedro. I think we have a graphic which we have Pedro on as well, maybe, where we can show how good or bad his finishing is. But that's my problem. The second problem is his finishing. He's on penalties, yes, agreed. He will get penalties, and he is probably a decent taker as well. My problem is the fact that he could be subbed off. If not game week 1 and 2, eventually you'll have that roaming around. So you can't have him as your second striker. As a third striker, as a backup, he's fine. But as a if you want him to play in and out every game week, I don't see that player starting every game week only because of Lalana's experience and threat.
In my opinion, I think Pedro is a very short-term pick because purely because of the fixtures. The first three fixtures read Luton at home, who are newly promoted, Wolves away, who are all over the place right now, and West Ham at home, who are trying to get into the market but are still not there because their latest preseason game also they lost 4-0 and they were pretty bad defensively. So these are three fixtures where Brighton, with their potential of scoring a lot of goals, will start very attacking. And I think Joao Pedro, he does have that thing that he is not someone who's going to take a lot of shots in from good positions. He's more of a workhorse in their attacking team, tries to get the ball, and he's very good on the ball. But I think Brighton will score a few goals in those first three games, and having a player who will be starting mostly in those 2 to 3 games is a bonus. I feel, and I think it's a punt towards taking early on. Because purely because of Brighton's fixtures, nothing else. And being confident that Joao Pedro will start initially, and Europe also wouldn't be kicking in at that point. Eventually, we will be getting more information on how Brighton will line up in Europe, how they will line up in the Premier League, and what kind of fixtures they will play. Someone like Lalana, and what implications does someone like Kudus coming in make, whether he'll play as an attacking midfielder or a right winger. So Kudus coming in obviously gives makes March a less appealing option for now. And there are other young players like Enciso and Buonanate who might take up the places also. So it's purely Brighton has a lot of things to think about. But for a very short term, with a good preseason and on penalties, I think Joao Pedro at 5.5 million especially if you want to have Salah on your team, is very appealing and is a route I am worth taking. I'm willing to take.
So two more points just struck me. I was trying to find like the heat map to like support it, but in general I couldn't find it. The problem with Pedro also I feel is he's dropping too deep. So I've like talked to a couple of Brighton fans as well, and you when you watch the highlights you can realize he's dropping too deep to connect the game, and that's also because McAllister is missing from this team. Caicedo might not play. So when you look at ball progressing players in that team, Gilmore is probably one. Dahoud maybe not, but Pedro is doing that role where McAllister used to do that. He used to drop deep and take and carry the ball. So that also puts me off. He's not the striker or like the number 10 people are expecting to arrive at the box every time. He's probably going to be there at certain times. He's on penalty, which really includes his appeal. But again, when you say that he's good for 3 weeks and then not as a second striker, you're booking in a transfer as well. So let's say you go and manage your Salah draft with a 6.5 million midfielders and a Salah and Pedro, or maybe something of that sort. You are booking a transfer for Pedro to someone, and the problem is at 5.5 you don't have options. Your only viable direct option is either zero point 0.5 up Visa if he's not risen in price by then, or Raul Jimenez at 5.5.
Which is a very fair point. I also agree that there are not too many strikers at that price point, but there are not too many price strikers at any price point as
No,
well.
but that's the
So
problem. So if you fall into the Pedro trap, and let's say in game week 3 you realize okay he's not starting anymore, you'll be in a panic situation because at other places when in midfield there might be Foden's, Madison, like Jota coming up,
hmm,
and you want the transfers to go there, but now you're forced in this situation and you can't take out funds either. So then your only viable option probably then is downgrade Salah, which was the entire point at the start to buy Pedro.
hmm. I feel so the two situations where I would be comfortable with going with Pedro is one where your team has another playing sub. So if you want to bench Pedro, you can bench him anytime because he's very cheap at 5.5 also, and you can afford even with Salah, you can afford a 4-5-1 formation where Pedro becomes uh, your substitute. And the other thing is, if you start with Pedro and have a few, a 1.5 or 2 million in your bank, so that it does book in a transfer, but if you can easily go up to a Watkins or Wilson if or an Isak if you see that they become options as well. So these are two scenarios I was looking at where Pedro is really appealing just because the fixtures are just very good to miss out on. So that's where I am at with Joao Pedro for now. I could end up going on Watkins as well because he's coming. We'll come up with him later. He's very
The
consistent, 90
FOMO is
minutes.
real, man. The FOMO is real.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jesus and Nkunku are not there, and even after that, if you just don't go with Watkins, it's just really it doesn't seem right
Yeah.
with respect to where Watkins is. He was really good towards the end of last season.
So
So yeah.
and like just to ask, I think I had a more question on Pedro, and like just to add to it, if he's your third striker, as even Akhilesh mentioned, if he's your third striker or maybe like a backup striker, then it's fine to go with Pedro because I think he rotates well with a lot of players available. Mbuemo, Eze, all of these players rotate well with him. But purely as a second striker for getting in Salah or Kane, I don't find it worth the move.
Yeah. Uh, Touching
Okay,
up on Mitoma,
no, before Mitoma, Welbeck, anything on Welbeck? Do you like 6 million? Do you fancy him? Do you want to buy him? And
6.5 right or 6 million? I'm not sure.
6 million, sorry. And he like there is
Okay.
Ferguson also competing for the same position. I think there are other players as well.
Hmm.
Do you do
Welbeck's
you
had a decent preseason. He
Yeah,
scored
he
a few goals, and I think he'll start for them early on. But Ferguson, obviously, I mean, he's very young, and once he gets into the and Brighton fans are really excited about Ferguson. So eventually, I think Ferguson will take his place. There is also a possibility that Joao Pedro could play as a number 9 as well. He can play in a bunch of different positions. So I would say avoid Welbeck for now. Maybe I think he might start the first 3 games, so it is a punt, but I would say avoid for now because I feel anytime one bad game and Ferguson or Joao Pedro could take that number 9 spot.
yeah. Okay, I don't have something to add. I think it's perfectly summed up. Coming to the midfield, Just Gross, Marsh, Mitoma. I think Gross is fairly out of the question. He's playing as a right back. I don't know when he'll be
Out of
back in.
penalties as well, no?
He out of penalties. Set pieces is always shared with March. I don't know what he will be involved in. As a right back, he could obviously be involved in some goals, but again, it's not the most optimal situation you want for a midfielder.
Hmm.
So he's probably in pure avoid in my opinion. And he's 6.5.
Yeah.
When you compare it that price point to his peers, which is March and Mitoma at 6.5, those are clearly better options. But between the two, again, I'm leaning towards Mitoma. It's just a form thing for me.
I mean, with respect to, Gross did end up scoring more points than the other two, but it was a different position and the
Yeah,
way he was playing. He was very good early on. Then once the McAllister, Mitoma, March options came, Gross became very quiet. He was playing as a DM, then he was playing as a right back, and his set pieces are not very appealing as well. I don't see Brighton scoring too many goals from set pieces. I think they have a very poor record from set
set
pieces
pieces,
also.
yes.
So I think he's a complete avoid. Coming to Mitoma and March, I I personally thought March was always the better option last year because of his of just purely he is very high in chance creation and he's a very good finisher. He takes a fair few of shots, which Mitoma doesn't. But now with Kudus on the picture, I think March is also an avoid, which just ends you up with Mitoma, who's a very template pick, has a lot of
Yeah.
owners as well. And if you want to go a Brighton attacker nailed for minutes and who has a good, I mean, Mitoma's fairly very good also, and he he will pitch in with a few assists and goals, and he is going to be central to that team. And like we spoke with the fixtures, I think Mitoma ends up becoming a fairly good option to go at the start at a very good price bracket.
Yeah, even I think even in the chat, Ritik mentioned even NCSO since he's mentioned out there. NCSO also will compete on the right wing mostly if he's not starting in the center, because he was
There's
used in the
Adingra
past.
also.
Yeah, so March has genuine competition. I don't think Kudo starts he doesn't start right away, but like
Yeah,
eventually down the line there is so many fixtures that
hmm.
Brighton are involved in. There could be
Yeah.
rotation, and De Zerbi doesn't shy off changing his team. We've seen that last season clearly, very clearly that he will make changes whenever needed. He's not a manager
There
who
is a
sticks to
long
their
list
game.
of really capable midfielders, which is why I think all of them are short-term options. If their fixtures weren't this good at the start, I would feel most of them would be an avoid, and we wouldn't even be touching up on most of them. It is true that they are a very good attacking team who are very exciting towards the end of last season. A lot of them were options, but there is just like a very long list. And with Europe also, Brighton are a team who will want to play well in Europe, so they might line up some of their main players in Europe, which does make it. And
They
Mitoma also, I think he's not. I'm not sure if he's a very long-term option also. And one more thing about Mitoma, which I wanted to touch upon, is he's currently 37, 38% ownership. And it's lucky that his first few fixtures are good, but if he does blank, there'll be just a huge number of managers going from Mitoma to an Embumo, or
yeah.
if Diaby, Barnes, Eze. There are so many options over there. Which is why with someone with very high ownership, if he just doesn't perform, you'll just lose value like this with respect to Mitoma. So that's one more thing which is probably a little concerning. But I think he's fairly good for the first three fixtures, but not a long-term option as well for me.
But I mean, I want to touch upon Mitoma, Buemo, and Eze like more in a bit, but let's just cover Estupinian first because otherwise we'll deviate from the Brighton topic. Okay, so there's a huge disparity. I am in the side where I am not picking Estupinian into my 11, and my only reason is that it's only for the first 3 game weeks. He is a kind of a liability in the next 6 after that, or at least next 4 or 5, and I don't want to deal with that. So I can't have 4 big unless I'm going at 4 at the back. I don't want to play Estupinian. He'll never be preferred over a Chilwell for me, neither Gabriel or Stones. I probably then that is why I feel it's better to drop him altogether, despite his high ownership. He's about what, about at least 30% on, if not higher, and that's where I want to ask your opinion. What do you think? Obviously, he's attacking, so there's no like doubt about it. He's high up the pitch. He's attacking. He could draw a penalty. He could score a goal. But the question is whether do you want him post game week 3? Is it worth is it worth using a transfer for these 3 game weeks when you have other options like Chilwell, Stones, and Gabriel in your team?
Yeah, I've actually not thought too much about Estepinian because there has just been so much thinking on other options around. He's been in my draft for a long time now. I think at 5 million he just comes at a very nice price bracket with great fixtures again. So I think uh, I'm fairly confident with Estupinian, and it does book a transfer at around game week 3 or 4. But there are playing defenders who I'd like to rotate with Estupinian. I've looked at some of the options. There are a lot of good defenders at 4.5 who rotate well with Estupinian also. So he is worth sitting in your bench for game week 4 and game week 5, and then game week 6 again he has Brighton. Sorry, he has Bournemouth. Could become an option. He could come on from your bench. So I think Estupinian is a great option. So I would stick with Estupinian. I think the audios has an issue. In a second. There is some
Yeah,
issues
just
that
sorry,
the
sorry,
audios.
sorry. Yeah, I think it's fine. Sorry, guys. Uh, I think it should be fine. I'll just repeat my point. So, my problem with Estupinian or having like Estupinian and Metoma is basically booking two transfers in Game Week 3 when you can figure out other options that will be occurring like at that price point. Like that game weeks or that time of the game. It is also forcing yourself into a wildcard situation essentially if there is an injury added to it.
Yeah.
So Mitoma is still fine because you have viable options. Estupinian can be avoided because when you look at Stones, Gabriel, and Chilwell for the first three games as well, I think Stones can probably keep a clean sheet in any game. So let's just leave him apart. It's just that he should start, which I think he will. At least till the time when Guardiola is not that like into he's put into the team at least for a game or two. I think Stones start. Yes, there is a headache, but we have 4 million players who will start too.
But
Chilwell
Walker
again
is
is the
staying
upside.
now. We were assuming that Walker would leave, but he's staying now. So always Walker could give. There is a scenario where you can see Akanji, Diaz, and Ake starting with Walker as the
So yeah,
inverted in the inverted role as well. So there is a chance that Stones can be dropped, but Stones has been very good towards the end of last season, and I think Guardiola is fairly convinced with starting Stones. I think he's a good option, but do ensure your bench does have some replacement who could come instead of Stones
yeah,
early on. But
that's
I
actually there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Is the
maybe
audio fine? I just wanted to check with the chat.
yeah, I think it is, but the chat can tell us once again because we've been speaking fairly for a while now after that glitch.
Yeah.
I think if the chat tells us we'll continue. So again, now that you say yes, maybe Stones or Estupinian, I have like people are debating Chilwell or Estupinian or maybe Gabriel or Estupinian. I don't think Gabriel is a nailed on player, so don't touch him. He's like a mandatory to have in your team. Chilwell again, I think when you compare Estupinian and Chilwell has been given more responsibility to attack. Now with Nkunku gone, I think he'll be given more responsibility to create an attack from that flank. And Estupinian has that role, but again, Chilwell is predominantly known for that, and he's good at that. So I trust Chilwell more with the same thing when and compared to Estupinian. And Chilwell again is a long-term player and long-term pick, where Estupinian will be a liability after game week 3. So maybe Stones and Estupinian is a 50-50 as you said. Yes, you will have that every game week where Stones could play or could not. And we've also seen that Kovacic will be used in that double pivot. It's not like Stones can really take up that position again like he did last season. So I
Yeah.
genuinely don't think going into the season, like most games, Kovacic will be used there. I think they still have
Hmm.
Phillips as well. So I'm
Yeah.
not pretty sure how Stones will get a lot of minutes, but again, yeah, Stones Estupinian is like a 50-50, especially after you mentioned.
Hmm. One more defender adding into the mix with respect to uh, Arsenal, if you are not going with two attackers, then will you go with a defender? Do you think? I mean, obviously the feeling is always an attacker could end up becoming an option soon, so that it'll be two transfers. But if you're fairly confident that Martinelli is not going to be an option early on, Odegaard is not going to be an option early on, how does Gabriel and Saliba double up some?
No chance for me for two reasons. I Without Zaka, I don't trust their defense, so I always will find it really uncomfortable position where I trust Arsenal's defense without a very good screening. Yes, Rice is there, but I trusted Zaka more with like a double sort of a screening more. And I know if when you look at the fixtures, you know that Arsenal is a team who can score 3-4 goals on their given day. So I think on that front, I think it's better to have like two Arsenal defenders rather than two Arsenal attackers rather than two defenders, and that's the approach I will go. And when you look at the fixtures, those are like 3, 4, 5 goals fixtures, and I want that for my team. I think that the ceiling is there with the Arsenal mids.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we were talking about Mitoma, there is something we want to pull up and let's discuss in terms of midfielders. I think there's some stats that we want to present and give you a fair comparison of what can look like. What can the midfielders look like? Here's the graphics. So before like we go ahead and like deep dive into it, I just quickly explain what this big map sort of looks like. There are like four quadrants. Every players to the right side of this image are good goal scorers. Player to the top of the image are good assisters or potentially players who create a lot of chances. That's the essence of this graph. That's what predominantly you should be looking at. So if the player is on the extreme right, which I think Mo Salah should be,
Mo
he's
Salah, Jota,
highest
Rashford.
highest goal scoring potential. And top of the chart is Kevin De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Trossard, which are high chance creation players. Now, when I think we can, you want to deep dive onto this, or should I take it
Yeah,
up?
I can. I can take it up. We can look at. Yeah, we look at Mitoma as we were talking about. He is somewhere in the middle, and his expected data throughout last season is not very appealing. Towards the end, I think he had more chances to score. Where there were a few games where he had to score more. He should have scored more goals, but didn't. And there were a few games weeks where he overperformed with low expected goals as well. So he is somewhere in the middle. But you look at all the other options at the same price bracket. You have Mbumo and March also. They are at very similar places as well. So I think the value they offer is quite good because they are very close to players like Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli also. So the at 6.5 million over the long run, they will be good options. But I mean, looking at this graph itself, in a team which is much more attacking and exciting, I see James Madison immediately popping up as a very good option. What do
Yeah,
you think?
Madison as well. And when I one other thing when I notice, Mitoma, like when you look at Mbuemo, he's better off than Martinelli and almost close to Saka in terms of his goal output, which is good. I think this includes I think penalties as well, which when added it makes him even better.
Yeah.
So that's something that really stands out to me out of the graph. Apart from that, Madison, as you mentioned, is there, which we will talk about. Two points that I want to make. Eze doesn't look like that appealing. Even Diaz, when you look at the small, like bottom quadrant, let me know in the chat if we need to zoom it. But when you look at the bottom quadrant, you can realize that Diaz and Eze are pretty down, even on the assist and on the goal thread. They're like mediocres on it, which slightly puts me off Eze. I have Eze in my draft as of now because of his preseason form, which I really rate in terms of picking FPL picks. But when you look at the long term picture, probably Buemo is still the better one. And that's sort of the debate I have. And even Mitoma is in the picture. But again, when you look at a longer landscape, Buemo is probably the better one. For a shorter duration, if you want someone, if you have funds and if you want someone for 3 game weeks and then want to, let's say, switch to a Madison, then Mitoma is something I would prefer.
With Mbumo, you can also pull up the fixtures, right?
Yeah.
His first 8 fixtures are very good, and he is someone who's on penalties, who is probably gonna play 90 minutes also. This data also which we are looking at last season, I think he was not playing too many 90s. This season, I think he's more
Yeah.
given to play 90s because he's the main player for Brentford. And you look at the fixtures for Brentford, they have Tottenham home, which is a good fixture, and just someone who's known to play very attacking football. So there will be gaps in the back which Ndubu can exploit. Fulham away is a good picture as well. Fulham ended up will be without Palinia. With Palinia, I'm not too sure, but if they are without Palinia, I think Fulham away is a great fixture as well. Crystal Palace home, Bournemouth home, two good fixtures. Newcastle away is a tricky fixture, then Everton at home. Then I think they have Nottingham Forest away in Game Week 7. So I think they have very good fixtures to start with. So he's a good medium term pickup. So because when you looked at Mitoma, he was just the first 3 week pick. Mbumo is someone who you look at 7 8 weeks and you will still be happy owning him. Of course, he it will be reflected on how his output is, but I think these are sort of fixtures where his output could be fairly good.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it makes a fair point to go that side as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I think
and
out of the 6.5,
and like there's one, obviously there's a caveat that Tony was playing last season, this season is not. But when you look at the small sample size without Tony, Mbuemo does better. So I mean that really doesn't stop you. That shouldn't stop you from going at Mbuemo, and that's personally where I am at the moment as well. Like in my head, I am there. In my draft, it's still SA because of the form, but in my head, I'm like switching towards Buemo or even a Visa. I think when you compare Pedro and that position, I think Visa is some. If you can have the point 0.5, I would rather have Visa to start with Salah or someone like a Kane rather than a Pedro.
yeah, Visa is more the long-term pick again.
Yeah.
It's the same, I think, with Mitoma and Mbumo and Visa and Joao Pedro. I think the Brentford picks are little more long-term, more nailed for minutes, 90-minute players, and when you come to the Brighton players, I think Joao Pedro's less, like little bit of minutes risk and much lesser, like much lesser term, shorter term when it comes to being an option. So that's where we are with comparing Brighton forwards and
Brighton
Brentford forwards.
midfielders with other, yeah, same price point.
Yeah, and attackers. Yeah, Brighton assets versus Brentford assets.
Like
And I think Eze is less appealing for me. He is probably gonna be Crystal Palace talisman is on penalties, but his data was not really appealing at all last season. So he's someone who is a very good finisher, who scores great goals, who scores very low XG goals, which is why he's always like looking like an option. But someone who always wants players like with better chances and a much higher probability to score, I would lean towards Mbumo and Mitoma
yeah,
personally.
and there's
The
like
other
Musa.
option in the 6.5 is Musa Diaby.
Yeah, I was just about to say
Uh,
Musa Diaby, yeah.
yeah,
But again, his stats are from the
and
Bundesliga, which we
yeah,
kind of
the
have to discard.
translation is not really
Yeah,
straightforward
yeah,
from Bundesliga to the Premier League. I would say wait and watch. He plays in a good Villa team who look really sharp in the preseason, who are very good on the ball, and he also plays almost as a second striker. But I'd say wait and watch because you need to see how he settles in the Premier League and how he gets going. But really looks like a good option, alternative when you want to. Maybe you go for a Mitoma for the first 3 weeks and you want. By that time, Diaby could really look appealing and he's a good switch. Another 6.5 midfielder is also Harvey Barnes, who scored a couple of goals in the latest preseason game. Again, I'd say wait and watch. Like we've said before, the fixtures early on aren't great, and but if he's if he sees more minutes, if he's fairly nailed in that Newcastle left hand side, which I think he will be,
he should
and
be.
gets going for Newcastle, I think he should also come in the mix of the 6.5 million mids soon.
Yep. That's about it. I think no
Uh,
other midfielder really stands out for me out of this chart.
yeah,
Hunmin Son, again, he was injured. He had the whole thing with his arm and all the surgery that happened, the pain and everything. So we will probably have to wait and watch. Someone who really I want to point out is Kulisevsky. Last season, he, despite having a good start, he played overall decent. Mount, again, Mount is also on the leftmost, which is the section where you want to avoid players again. Trossard is, although I want to some is someone I want to touch upon. So when you ask the Arsenal fans, they're very heavy on Trossard. They expect him to play number 9 at times, come on for Martinelli, play about 45 minutes every game. If not, can be used in as an 8 as well, advanced 8 in the team. And they're very heavy in general, very pro in general as an Arsenal player. What do you think for people who are asking in the chat as well? They want to consider Trossard maybe over a Martinelli, maybe. Again, let's just compare Havertz, Martinelli, and Trossard in that category because that's where like the third Arsenal spot probably is. What is your opinion,
Uh,
especially with Trossard? Yeah,
I think for me, Martinelli is still the second best option after Saka in their midfield. If you're not looking at Odegaard,
I
probably
also put yeah
Odegaard.
I'll also pitch in
Yeah,
Odegaard because like
yeah.
yeah
Put Odegaard also there. Then maybe I think with between Odegaard and Martinelli and the minutes for Odegaard, and also that Martinelli is not looked 100% fit early on. He's not. He had an injury later in the previous season, right? And he's not sharp enough so far. He's not had a great preseason. I'd say Odegaard is second because purely because of his minutes and his 90 minutes. And the first three fixtures I think are great for Arsenal. Martinelli is someone I really like, and he's still in my draft because he's someone who can just explode in a trice. So I think Martinelli is probably the second best option there. When it comes between Trossard and Havertz, I feel Trossard against the weaker sides will be starting either as a left winger or either as a false nine or as a number eight. The left side and number eight is where Trossard played most of his preseason. And I think when they don't play Partey and Rice, Trossard has a great chance of starting, especially with Jesus injured. So he can start as a false number nine. He can also start as that number, the attacking number eight. So Trossard comes as the next best option, then Havertz, because Havertz is someone I still feel not I don't feel great about his finishing still, and someone who could be rotated as well. He's someone who Arteta might choose against the teams where he needs more, he needs a more defensive work rate,
yeah.
which Havertz is really good at. Uh, Trossard, I think he's done enough to raise his arm and be in the team. So I think
So
Trossard starts the first game, even though he didn't start the Community Shield. That's a different game. I
and he's
think
also scored the
against teams
equalizer
like
and probably the winner, so to say, against City.
Yeah, so I think in fixtures like Nottingham Forest at home, Crystal Palace away, and I think Fulham at home, I think Trossard is a great option, and he would probably start. He'll probably start at least two of these games. So if you want to take a punt on uh, any of these options, I think Trossard is probably the best after Martinelli and um,
So
Odegaard.
personally, I'm in a dilemma as a lot of people are Martinelli in or out because there is potential minutes management happening there. There will be like you've seen it in the community sheet as well. You will probably see it at the end of last season as well. Martinelli will get subbed off, and there's a lot of players who can play that position. On the left, Trossard could play. Martinelli obviously is there. Trossard could play up top as well. Although there's Nketiah, Havertz could be playing it. So personally, I'm not very confident on the third Arsenal spot. It's only because of the fixtures and the fact that Martinelli is an explosive asset is the reason I'm going there. I wouldn't really put someone off Trossard if let's say they want to save money and go for a Salah and Trossard is the option you're falling to for the third Arsenal guy. I think it's a fair strategy. I wouldn't really pitch Havertz because I don't know if Havertz will be given the minutes and opportunity because he's not been good preseason as well. But again, I think Trossard only if you are upgrading somewhere large. I think Trossard is a fine pick to go. He will still manage about even if he doesn't start, he'll manage about 635, 40 odd minutes every game with the extended time happening this season, which isn't really bad when you look in over the overall picture. So personally, I feel it's a good punt, but again, it's a huge punt to sum it up.
Yeah, it also depends on how many punts you're taking in your team. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah. If you
suggest
fill up, yeah,
max I one probably max two, not more than that. You'll need your more reliable 90-minute men
playing
who
players, yeah.
have good fixtures, who are playing for good teams like Bruno, Rashford, Saka. I think you'll need to have at least two of them in your team in your drafts. So I think alongside them, if you want to have a Salah and maybe want to have an enabler here and there, maybe I think these options are quite fun. So I think Mbumo is more solid option because he's fairly nailed, plays
Yeah,
for a decent side,
and
and is their talisman.
he's
But
back
the
in
others I
training
think
as
are
well.
all fun.
For people who are asking
He's
in the
back in
chat,
training.
he's
I
back
think
in
he'll
training.
play in
He's
game.
fit. He plays game week 1 in my opinion.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. We'll move on to like our forwards. We probably are slightly lagging behind on time, so let's move on to the next section we have, which is the primary dilemma. We've touched upon it. We've touched upon Pedro, obviously, but there is a Jackson that really is causing problems. There is obviously Haaland who's nailed in a team. Jesus got injured. Watkins is there. It's primarily between Jackson, Watkins, and Pedro as of now. I would like to obviously throw in Visa as well. That's someone who I like. Julian
Hmm.
Alvarez, let me just first of all, let's just put him out of the list in my opinion, only because we don't know if he starts or not. With Haaland, I don't see him starting. All of the arguments where he could be potentially used as a second striker or a false nine sort of a situation, I don't think that's happening when the team is fit, so he's not going to start in my opinion. But these three players, we fairly touched upon most of it. But again, what do you think between Jackson? I'll take it up since a Chelsea fan before. If you want to add something before that, you can go ahead.
You can take it up. I think I'll add more once you're done with
Yeah.
the.
So with respect to Jackson, my only issue at the moment is he's nailed on 4 minutes. For people who are interested in that aspect, he will definitely play at least 75, 80 minutes every game for us. I have no, because we don't have a European competition to worry about. So I don't think that's a worry. In the AFL Cup, FA Cup, we'll play our second team, which is primarily Broha and everyone. So he starts almost all Premier League games. That's not a worry. My problem is that the creativity was coming from Nkunku. Without him, we still have Mudrik and Sterling on our wings. And how much do you expect them to create? Is my question. They were not fabulous in the preseason either. So it automatically reduces the output for Jackson. Yes, I still feel if we score one goal, or let's say a 2-0 win or a 2-1 win, he'll be involved in a goal, which is something you want from FPL. But again, will we be able to score 2 goals like throughout every match? I doubt. And that's the reason that really reduces my appeal for Jackson. I would rather see Chelsea play for 2 games, see how we are playing without Nkunku, how we are managing, and then probably jump on Jackson and not start away with him right away.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I don't think Jackson is an option for me as of now. The two main options I am looking at again is Watkins and João Pedro. Visa is also someone I gave a look at, but I don't know. I'm just not really. He just not doesn't appeal too much to me. I'm also looking. I also think Brentford might sign another striker soon. So Visa could. He's a good finisher. Don't get me wrong there. I think he could be an option, but I just feel João Pedro is a little more exciting playing for the Brighton team. And I would like to see that if I go with João Pedro, it's a very short term option. 3 4 game weeks. That's all. I'll see. I'll look at the other options as this, and then maybe Visa could become an option by then. But I'm probably gonna start with Joao Pedro in that price bracket. If not, going for Watkins. Watkins, I don't. I mean, I think he's a very good option because he is the talisman for Villa. He might lose his penalties because I've never thought he's been great taking them, but he's gonna be very central. Villa playing great. He has both goal and assist potential, and he's that talisman. He's 90 minutes nailed on, and there are not too many options around him. I think one thing you could maybe be. I think he'll tick along. He's not gonna be very explosive like he's always been. The one who's more explosive at the same price bracket is Wilson, but Wilson is not minutes assured, and Newcastle don't have great pitches. I think Wilson could also really haul in that first week or the second, or like he could still get a haul, but then after that he might just go missing, get injured, or just lose his minutes. Isak also played centrally in one of the preseason games and looked really good. So I'm not sure about the Newcastle options. They could become options once their fixtures clear up. But at the start, it's either Watkins or Joao Pedro for me.
Yeah. And I'm still slightly thinking about Visa, but again, for people who want to come back and view this chart again, Let me just break it down for you guys. For the players on your right most are the good goal scorers you want to look at. They're probably more involved in the goals. The player on the top again are chance creators. You want to look them as chance creator options, and the numbers below their names are the goals they scored through penalties last season. Or the penalties they penalty scored. That's it. I think not even penalty achieved. It's penalty scores,
Hmm.
and I think for Kane it's one penalty miss. I think total penalty taken and not scored, but Kane missed one penalty, so it's penalty taken not scored. Yeah, so that's the number. So Haaland scored 7/7. Kane scored 5/6. I think he missed one,
Yeah.
as far as I remember. But yeah, that's about forwards. I think as of now the problem is with the least number of options. It's still very safe to go Watkins. Third striker is
Hmm.
probably Pedro. That's what we can say. I'm slightly
I,
look. I'm
I still be I'm still leaning towards two strikers. I don't think any of my drafts currently have three
three
strikers.
strikers. Yeah,
Pure, I mean, I just don't see it being viable. I don't see using the third striker at any time when there are five midfielders I'm going to use week in, week out. Two players I really think could become options if they have more minutes are Wilson and Nunez, because you can clearly see from the chart that they just hog chances, and they are
yeah.
good. They are great goal scorers, and Nunez is very good at creating chances as well. So like I think there will be short spells when if I know that these guys are going to start, Wilson and Nunez will become options. And for that, you'll need to have some placeholder, which is why Ollie Watkins has someone reliable 90 minutes and is someone who puts his hands up because there's not too many options around. So
Yeah,
Ollie Watkins is where, or Joao Pedro is where I'm going to be at the start of game week one.
but I think I'm not very pro on Pedro, as I have already mentioned. I'm not. I don't think there's huge flags around him, which I don't want to be involved with at the start of the season. And it's also because I'm taking punts in other places in my team. I don't want to take a punt on Pedro.
Yeah, again, depends on the punch you're taking. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we
Let's
pretty
move
much.
on. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this much is there to cover with the structure. We have the fixtures. Should you want to discuss the structure first or the fixtures?
we
Like,
can first look at the fixtures.
yeah, okay. So we have the fixtures here. We'll just skim through it. Let's discuss if we have anything particular to talk about. Burnley versus City. So I have one question, which is the early lineups. We will probably, for everyone watching, get early league lineups for the City team, which brings me to the point. Like most of us do not have Foden in our team. I don't have Foden either. And if let's say Foden is starting, are you tempted to go by the Foden route?
Generally, I'd be very tempted because uh, this is a game where City could score three or four goals. Burnley are not the low block Burnley anymore. They are going to be an open attacking team. I'm not sure how they line up against Man City because it's Man City, but I think City could score two or three goals. And if Foden starts, he could be involved, and he's very tempting. But I am really not sure. I would still be very confused on whether to go with him or not.
And
Mostly, I think I would avoid because I'm not sure if starting in game week one means that he starts in game week two as well. So I was fairly confident with Foden until before the Community Shield, but I don't think Pep relies on Foden still in certain games, and that's why I think there are chances that Foden is dropped. But I'm not against the idea. I'm just I really like Foden as a player, and I think he is exciting when he plays. But again, it's just the minutes
so,
which
but
he's
again,
still
let's
not
say, let's
assured.
say,
Even after Gundogan and Mahrez leaving, he's still not assured of his minutes. So I don't know. I'm just fairly confident with going with an Arsenal attacker, an extra Arsenal attacker, and a 6.5 million, or a Jota than Foden.
but like even if you go Foden, let's say I'm not going Foden. Even if I get news, I might just avoid it. Even if you go Foden, who would be your fall? Like who would be the player you would sell? Let's say you don't
Probably
have enough.
Martinelli.
Yeah, you don't have enough funds for like a Buemo or a Mitoma to Foden. Would you downgrade at any other position to do this move or let go of Martinelli?
I think three players I would not touch by down. Like I would not touch if you want to downgrade are Rashford, Saka, and Bruno. If you have them and if you want them in your game week one, and if you see Foden news coming out, I would not remove any of those three players. Martinelli is something I would consider removing, and any other player around there. Odegaard is also someone I'd consider removing.
Yeah.
because Foden could be little more explosive than someone like Odegaard, and Martinelli, as we discussed, is not someone who's 100% there yet. But I would also be very reluctant in removing Martinelli also, but I would do that if Foden is starting in game.
That's actually a bold take. I don't think that. Then that's exactly the reason, because I don't know for sure if Foden starts the games ahead of him. I don't want to remove a player who I know will start most of it. So I know Martinelli will
Yeah,
start 3 out of 4, but I don't know if
yeah,
Foden starts 3 out of 4. That's the problem. And Martinelli is
agreed
equally
with
an
you.
explosive option. Yes, City like score more
Very much,
goals in
yes.
generally, but
And
Arsenal are
he
there.
has a fixtures where he could be very explosive as well.
Yeah. So
I really like the first three Arsenal fixtures. They could score like 3 or 4 goals in at
every
least two of those
each
games.
each and every game of theirs.
Each game also. Probably Crystal Palace away is the game they score less, but the other two games surely they'll be scoring quite a few goals. Which is why I think I'm still very much on Martinelli, but I would I would just see if I'm not sure if I'd go with Foden
Yeah, I
if the
mean,
league comes.
that's why I asked this question, because there is a high chance that we get leak lineups. Like
Yeah.
we most likely will, and if Foden starts, it's going to be chaos. Anyways, like
Yeah, what I would do for myself is, I think if I'm fairly confident with my draft, I would forget about the league. I'd just be confident with my draft, and I would not.
yeah,
I would pretend as though the league never came.
yeah.
That's what I would try and do with respect to if I'm confident with the draft, which I think I will be at around 1 hour before the deadline.
So like, there's another question in the chat. What if Kevin De Bruyne starts? I'll just take it up. Even if he starts, I'm not ripping apart my team, because you will have to rip apart your draft to fit him in, and I don't think it's worth that much. Personally, I wouldn't go there,
Yeah,
even if he started.
yeah. If you want to, if you think you have money to go Kevin De Bruyne, just find 2 million more to go Salah. So
Yeah.
that's where I would be with respect to that. I'm not sure Kevin De Bruyne could also. I don't think he's the same player who will play 90 minutes whenever fit like he was 2 seasons back. Now I think his minutes will be a little more managed. He's getting more old, and he is a very important player still for City. They'll need him for the important games. Like they had him for last season when he really turned it on when he played Arsenal towards the end, and he was also very good towards the end for them last season. So if his injury is an issue, I think there'll be a lot of minutes managed with De Bruyne also.
Yeah, and I wouldn't really personally go there.
Yeah, I
Moving
wouldn't
on.
really go. 10.5 still is too
Yeah, it's
expensive
too
for me.
much. Burnley, I think only Bayer is someone we are interested in. A lot of people had a doubt if he'll start or not. I think he'll start, and he's nailed on, in my opinion, as a 4 million defender. But if you want to go there, I think it's a safe bet. Arsenal versus Nottingham.
Yeah, I
We've talked
agree.
about like Arsenal fairly a lot. I don't think there's much to add. Just an additional point that I noticed and I wanted to add here in the after the Community Shield is that White was supremely attacking. He was given a lot of responsibility to attack, overlap, and even cut inside the box a lot of times, which he was not doing a bit of it last season. But again, this season is pretty much more. So he could be an option down the line if we find like 5.5 million somewhere out of the blue. But apart from that, we've discussed pretty much everything. And in terms of starting lineup, I think Trossard starts this one, Martinelli starts this one, and Havertz and Nketiah don't start this one.
So you think Rice starts as midfield? I don't think that will happen. I
But I
think
think
one of
Rice.
Havertz or Nketiah start.
Yeah, I think
And
Rice starts in
they'll
midfield.
play Odegaard, Trossard. Then I think Martinelli, Saka, and one of Havertz or Nketiah. But
So even if
I
that
don't think Rice
happens,
plays at 8. If that happens, I think Martinelli becomes a better option for me
yeah,
because there's only one person he'd probably be replaced by. So he becomes a better option for me if that happens.
I personally
Uh,
think that Trossard starts striker. I don't think Havertz will be given the job again. Given and or maybe Nketiah
Then
and then
Havertz
Trossard will
probably
be there.
plays at 8.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't see them playing both Partey and Rice in a game like
In,
Nottingham Forest. I
but I
think
don't see Havertz starting is the problem, because I have not seen him perform well. That's the issue I have with Havertz. If that's what I'm saying, if Nketiah starts, I think Trossard starts as number 8, which also makes him an option.
that could also be
Yeah.
one of the outcomes of probably.
But
But yeah,
yeah, genuinely, like I was looking at the
mm,
Arsenal squad yesterday, and they have huge depth this season. I think
they have great
Fabio
depth. Nelson is
Vieira,
also there.
Nelson is there, El Nini is still there. There's
Huh.
Lokongo back in the team. There's like Smith Rowe is still there. There's huge options
Oh
to get.
yeah, they have
Jorginho is still there, guys.
players.
Come on, the ex-Chelsea man. He's
They
still
have a
there.
plethora of talent in all
Midfielders
positions.
options.
They're quite stacked. I mean, I feel they could challenge this title with City this season because they're quite stacked, and City have lost two main players in Gundogan and Mahrez, and replacing. I don't think they've replaced Gundogan with Kovacic. He's someone who offers different style for them, but
Yeah.
they will miss a few goals, which crucial goals, which Mahrez and Gundogan were scoring for them, which they'll need to find from elsewhere. So I think City, they are City, they'll obviously find their solution. But Arsenal looks stacked.
Yep.
Let's
And
move on.
Bournemouth West Ham. I don't think it's worthwhile discussing. I don't think there is options.
I don't think there are much
Brighton
options.
Luton. Yeah. Again, we've
We
discussed
discussed
Brighton.
fairly with about Brighton. I think probably Mitoma is the best option, Joe Pedro, and that's it. Estupinian obviously defensively, but
Estupinian. Yeah. The rest is
yeah,
probably
I think
avoid.
these are the three realistic options. Others I would say avoid because
Just to add to Brighton as well, I think I
yeah,
forgot that time. Steele again. Steele, I don't think he's keeping his place. So I've read about it. I've researched about it. He could start the games coming up ahead in the next two, but as soon as Europe kicks in, I think he'll be shifted to European games, and their second
Mhm.
keeper will be starting here. And he's had like poor games recently in the preseason, which also adds to the fuel. So I like
Mhm.
adds to the fire.
Yeah,
Fuel
I'd
to
say
the fire.
avoid Brighton goalkeeper for now. I don't think it's worth the headache with respect to Brighton goalkeeper, at least at the beginning. We are more assured that Steele or Verbruggen is the number one choice, then we can go with them later, or if someone gets injured. But for at the beginning, especially with the fixtures turning around, I don't think a Brighton goalkeeper is an option.
Yeah, and also, there's like 4.5 keepers. Like a lot of people are asking. Pickford, Leno, there's Johnston, there's now Steele. Obviously, Steele was there. There are certain options. I personally feel Johnston is the best one. You know that he
Yeah,
start. Crystal are defensively decent, and he
yeah.
has the highest shot stopping saves per like game and like for the save points. So which I would be interested in as a team. And
Yeah, he
usually
has
teams,
around 4 points a game or something.
yeah,
He ended the season strongly. Palace ended the season, although they had very good fixtures. They did end up the season with solid defensive underlying numbers and were probably second or third best in the entire league in the last 8 to 10 game weeks when it came to
yeah,
defensively, uh, like expected goals conceded, and he'll have a fair amount of saves to go for as well. And he has a few fixtures. I think game week one itself he has a good fixture, and then eventually after game week 4 or 5, I think they have quite good fixtures, good home fixtures where there are clean sheets up for grabs. I think Johnston is the best option. Um,
and he rotates
Pickford
well
is a
with
good
the
option as well.
Nottingham Forest keeper,
Yeah,
which
I
probably
think
will
a
be
lot of them rotate well with the Nottingham Forest
yes.
keeper. Even Pickford does. Pickford also rotates well with Nottingham Forest, and obviously trusting a keeper who's a good keeper, plays for a Sean Dyche team could be viable. Pickford also is somewhere there. I think he's the second best option out of 4.5 million goalkeepers. Uh, who else is there?
I think it's Leno and if it's
Leno, I'm not
Verbruggen.
sure.
I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
think I'd
I
avoid
don't
Leno.
think
Like
Pickford or
Fulham were like conceded the most big
they,
chances last season. They are just a
I
bad
think
defense.
they're a team to
Without
attack at the
Palhinha, they'll
start.
just be
Yeah, I think they're
yeah.
a
They
team
are
to
team
attack.
to surely team to attack. Um, yeah.
There could be
Let's
Sanchez at Chelsea, but that's like a thing of the future,
mm,
not right now. So between
yeah.
like
Once you're sure that Sanchez is the number one.
between
Yeah.
like the Pickford and like we have Johnston. I'm still preferring Johnston because of the fixtures and rotation. Pickford could do well, but again, I don't know what sort of an approach Everton have overall in the game. Do they want to play attacking? Are they a defense first team at the moment? So I would rather just
Mm,
wait. Yes, there's no harm going there because Sean Dyche is known for having a stable defense, so you can still go there. But I'm not confident is the problem.
mm. If you now that we've got the goalkeeper conversation, if you just go to the 5 million ones as well, I think Onana and Martinez are the realistic options at 5 million.
Oh no,
Ramsdale is there, but with Raya also coming in the team, I think uh, I would avoid Arsenal keeper because you'll have three Arsenal attackers otherwise also.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Onana looks a good
I
shout
think
because
it's like five and
United are a
above.
good defense.
Onana is fine. I think yeah.
Yeah, Onana's fine. I think Martinez is also a good option. Aston Villa have improved a lot defensively, and he will have more save points than Onana, and could end up with a lot of points as well. Martinez is surely one to keep an eye on. I would say the 5.5 keepers, just avoid them right now. Edison's probably the best, but I
But
wouldn't go there.
yeah, Pep is pretty much pissed on Edison. I've been reading reports where he's like, I wouldn't be shy of benching Edison if he's putting out performances like he did in the end of last season, and he had howlers that like at the end of the last season. So that's also I don't think it will happen. It's but something to worry about. You never know. Pep can do literally anything. We have like Everton versus Fulham. Not much to discuss upon. It's probably avoid
There's
both
one
teams.
more option. I think Flecken is a 4.5 option.
But
Uh,
Flecken again isn't that great as a shot stopper, which is the problem with him. And I don't know
huh?
if he starts. Flecken with
Yeah, it's not a great shot
shot
stopper,
stopper.
but I think he will start. I think he is probably
He's
Brentford's
probably
number one.
nailed,
Who
but
has,
again, he's put down bad performances in the preseason. So another couple of bad
I
performances here
wouldn't
and
judge
there.
too much from preseason, but
But that's the
I
thing.
surely see a Brentford keeper is always an option. And also, I think in the soft spot they were just discussing earlier that when you look at FBref and Raya's best possible replacement with Raya's style of goalkeeping, the one who comes number one is Flecken. So
Yeah, but that's because
I'd
of the
say
distribution, right? I think.
probably, but I wouldn't. I think they need that distribution. That's why they
Yeah,
brought him in the
yeah,
team.
yeah.
Maybe short stopping is an issue, but I think Brentford are a solid defensive team, and Flecken is an option to consider in the mix. In the mix of when you consider Pickford and Johnston, I think Flecken is also an option to
Yeah.
consider. I wouldn't particularly go against Flecken because also because of the fixtures we just discussed.
Yep. Also, we've touched about an hour's mark, so we'll just wrap it up quickly and not extend too
Yeah,
much. Sheffield
yeah,
Crystal, I don't have anything to add. Probably Eze the only option out of the fixture to consider. We've
yeah.
discussed fairly about him. Newcastle, Aston Villa, we've touched upon. Uh, a lot of
Everton
people,
Fulham also, I think
yeah,
Everton
Everton
Fulham.
Fulham
One thing to touch upon the Calvert Lewin is not going to start early on, and I don't think
yeah,
he's
for
going to
people
be an
who had
option.
Calvert Lewin, a lot of drafts
Mhm.
have Calvert Lewin. He's not
Yeah,
expected
yeah,
to start the season.
he's not expected to start, so I think he's going to avoid.
Yep,
Another player who you could keep an eye on is Danjuma, who could play as a striker
striker, yeah.
if Calvert Lewin doesn't play. Might be on penalties as well. One to keep an eye on surely, but I wouldn't have him in my game week one draft. Everton do have decent fixtures, so he could become an option if he starts brightly. Fulham, I mean Jimenez probably an option in
That's the
midfield
only player
sleeps.
I'm looking at. Maybe Wilson,
Yeah,
but those are the only two, but not
yeah,
right
those
now
are
in
the
your
only.
teams.
But yeah, I don't think with the draft right now, with the kind of players we have in other teams elsewhere, with the fixed kind of fixtures they have, I wouldn't look too much into teams like this. Sheffield, I think probably Baldock is the only option. Bogle is still not fit, so Baldock is probably the best 4.0 because they have decent fixtures to start off with as well, and he rotates well. And whenever you want like one game week to bring him in, I think he fairly rotates well with certain players. Newcastle Aston Villa, I think will be a good game. Um, Newcastle, as we said, they have tricky fixtures. Obviously, players like Trippier, Barnes, Wilson, Isak could all become options. But I'd say watch the Newcastle team, observe, and then jump on them because they
Then
have
jump on
City
them,
and
yeah.
Liverpool in game week 2 and 3. And then I think Newcastle will open up as great options. Aston Villa, we discussed. I think Watkins is probably the best option. Diaby is someone to wait and watch. I think defensively you can go attack their 4.5 defenders. I think they probably have one
The
of the
problem
better
is
4.5 defenders.
Cash is playing as a great out of position attacking option, but again he could be benched any
He's
game
not
and
nailed.
like yeah,
But I
he's not
think
nailed.
the more nailed player, their most nailed player, I think is Konsa. That's what
Konsa,
I've
yeah,
read around about Konsa. He can play as a right back and also as a centre back and
and right centre back as well when they're playing with
fairly,
three.
yeah, fairly nailed if they play three at the back. Fairly nailed at the start. I think Diego Carlos is someone who's being eased back because of his injury. And at the start, I think Konsa is probably their best option. Mings could be an option. Pau Torres is also an option. But I think wait until Pau Torres becomes their main defender. I think he'll become their main defender soon. But I'd say I just say wait. But I think any of those three defenders could be options who can play as left back and centre back. One person to keep an eye on is Alex Moreno, who when he comes
When
back
he
from
come back, when he
his
comes back from
injury, I
physio.
think he could be a good option as well. He could actually become your Estupinian to Alex Moreno if he comes by that time, and if he drops a little bit down in value also. he could become your option because Aston Villa have good fixtures after some 6 to 7 game weeks. Brentford Spurs, Brentford coming to that defensive options now. I think Pinnock and Henry are both good options also. We
Henry,
touched
yeah,
upon
I prefer
Fleckin.
Henry. Yeah.
I yeah, I we have discussed this before.
Yep.
Henry can play as a wing back in the back five, and also nailed as left back in a back four. I think he's flagged as yellow right now, but I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think
Bournemouth, yeah.
I think the report said that he's also similar to Mbumo, just cautious. I think he'll play. Pinnock is also a good option. I think he's never gone out of the team. He's been solid for Brentford in the since they've come to the Premier League. So I'd say Pinnock is also a solid option. Fairly nailed. Henry is just a little more nailed and can play wing back also a few games. So he's just above Pinnock, but Pinnock is obviously it's a very good option as well. Coming to Spurs, I think we
I mean,
touched
there's a lot
upon
to talk
Kane. We
about
touched,
Spurs. Personally, I want to touch upon it. Sorry to cut you, but
yeah,
like there's Madison and Kane. Now Kane is staying, and he's I think he's still a genuine option. I prefer him over, or maybe if not, if you want to start with Salah, go with it. I prefer it and switch to Kane. You can, but have in it mind that you might be in a situation game week 3 where you want Kane. So plan accordingly. Let's say if game week 3 a situation arises, who will you sell? Keep that in mind, and make a
yeah.
structure in the similar format. And Madison as well.
Yeah,
Like this.
just it's a structure also, right? Because I think two forward structure. If you go with Haaland and Kane, and you have like 4 or 5 midfielders, a couple of 6.5 midfielders, and then Rashford, Saka, and maybe one of the 7.5 midfielders or something. I think that's a much better structure to have than have Haaland and another striker, and then Salah in your Haaland and a 5.5 or
Yeah,
6
because
million
there are
striker
more options
and
in
Salah.
that price bracket in the midfield.
Yeah, and Kane just offer a better
Yeah,
structure
Kane is just too
to
good.
have it. And Kane, I think if he stays, I think he's a genuine option for game week 3. And I would, if I don't have a structure to go with Kane, I would really have a FOMO about Kane. He's like last season. I think I had a major FOMO about Kane for a long time last season. So yeah,
Yep.
um,
Chelsea, Liverpool,
I think Madison
and
we can
this
just touch
Madison as
upon.
well. Yeah.
Madison looks great. I think he's playing in a better team now and a more attacking team, and he's their primary chance creator. Who also we've seen Madison before at Leicester, who's also a very good finisher. So don't rule out goals from him, but he's their primary chance creator. He'll take all their set pieces, and he will be just behind the box, just there
And
to
in fact not
score
just
goals.
behind the box. He's pressing with Kane. He's in fact like much more advanced as a number 10 in the box, and
Yeah.
Kulusevski's
And
are holding the
you can
weight.
also see that sometimes Kane will drop back,
Yeah,
and that
there
time
is
Madison
space
could
for Madison to attack
exploit
first.
that position also. Maybe Son will come in, Madison will go wide, but I think that position is there, and at 7.5 he's surely an option to take.
To
I think
start with.
I'm also considering him for just directly putting in my game week 1 draft because Spurs are an exciting attacking team, but I would say the more sensible thing to do is watch their first couple of games against tougher teams, and then when their fixtures clear up, go for someone like Madison. Um, Defensively, I think there are two options. One is Pedro Porro at
No,
5 million,
Pedro Porro is not an
and
option. So the problem with Pedro is happening that he's not been consistent, and he's been like
okay.
dropped out of the team regularly. So I wouldn't
Hmm.
put out Pedro as an option for people.
But the better option, I think the best defensive option is their left back Destiny Udogi at 4.5 million. Preseason he started well. He scored a goal also, I think, and he has been their main left back. Perisic in all the preseason games has started as a right back alongside Poro. So whenever Ange just put up a team, it's been left back mainly Udogi, and his substitute has been Region. And I don't think Region will be starting this
Yeah.
course. So Udogi is a decent option. Maybe again one worth waiting and watching how he performs and how this Ange team, which it's really an unknown, right? So how they go about starting the season as well.
Yep. And
Coming to the last couple of fixtures, Chelsea, Liverpool,
we fairly discussed
great
Chelsea,
fixture as well.
Liverpool. I mean, it's
Yeah,
something to predict of Manchester United. We didn't touch upon Bruno, but again, we did this deep dive about Bruno in like the midfield video, where both of us think he's a great option. Even when you look at the graphics back again in terms of Bruno, if I can pull that up in the midfield stats, he's like a good pick to
I
go and
think
have.
the last preseason game, I think against Law, he looked brilliant. He's just his passing was out of the world, and he's going to continue with this chance creation. Hopefully, United convert some of those chances with Rasmus Højlund coming into the team as well. And at 8.5, I think it's an like he's just so much value. It's like probably the biggest bargain of the season also. At 8.5 for a
And
person who plays
with
for a
pens, people
Manchester
forget
United
that he's
with
on penalties.
penalties, and someone like Bruno Fernandes who's just like at the peak of his age and probably is gonna have one of his best seasons. I think uh, he's he's gonna be in my game week one draft. I haven't thought about removing him as well. And the problem I've had mainly with having Salah within my Salah drafts is that I've seen sacrificing Bruno Fernandes, which I've not been open about. So
Oh,
that's where I am with Bruno. Rashford again another solid option. I think you just have to keep him in your team. You look at the graphic also; he's just very high with his
I mean,
big
Rashford
chances
and
with his
Saka, we don't
expected
even have to
data.
explain. I think
Yeah, I
Rashford
don't
and
think we
Saka
should
is
talk too much
pretty.
about.
Yeah, we don't have to talk
Yeah,
about
they
it.
just have to be in your team.
With
Um,
but with the Salah, who would I sacrifice between Bruno and Martinelli? I think I would sacrifice Bruno for Salah. I feel that Martinelli has the ceiling. Bruno is still more
just a
consistent,
point 0.5 million, I'd
but
say, but I
I would
think Wolves is
sacrifice
a
Bruno.
fixture to target.
Yeah,
I think Wolves is a fixture to target. And who do they play in Game Week 3? Nottingham Forest. I
Nottingham
think that is
Forest.
also a fixture to target.
And
I
it's
think
Tottenham is not a bad fixture. So
it's
what
not a
convinced
bad
me for
fixture as well.
Bruno is
I think
that
the first
Tottenham
three
will be a
fixtures,
good fixture too.
I would not be happy going without both the attackers of Manchester
Yeah.
United. I think both of them have to be in the team. So Bruno and Rashford have like I think they are great options. Maybe if you want that point 0.5 million, you could consider taking out Bruno and keeping Martinelli and go for Salah. But I wouldn't be happy doing that as well.
I
Uh,
mean,
one more player I thought we'd touch upon Chelsea Liverpool. We missed is Ben Chilwell. We have discussed about him a little bit before. I think he's very attacking in the left hand side, and I wouldn't remove him just because Nkunku is out of the team. They have great fixtures, and I think it also increases the appealing of Chilwell because he's gonna get to create more chances now. He's the one. He's now their primary chance creator with from the left hand side in a very attacking role. Reece James is the one who's playing much deeper. Ben Chilwell will be mostly as a left forward when they
yeah.
go attacking. I think he has goals in him, he has assists in him, he's taking corners from both sides. He's probably a nail in my game week one draft, even though Chelsea have lost Nkunku. I think their fixtures from game week three just is as good as it gets, and Ben Chilwell is a great option. These games, I just want one thing, which was discussed in the FPL
I
Twitter
would just say
community today,
avoid.
is penalties.
Personally, avoid. No, I don't think it's
One,
happening.
no,
I think it's
he's
early.
not going to take
No,
penalties.
no. Jackson or Sterling, it's not happening with the regions. I think it's an avoid.
Okay. Okay, then I would say avoid as well.
Yeah.
Penalties, the only thing which is appealing, and these games always can just be a very exciting pick. But I don't think he's as attacking as he was a couple of seasons back. He's in a four at the back. I think it's Chilwell who's the more attacking player, and Chilwell is the one to go for.
Okay, so I
I
think
think let's just
let's look at it at our teams and then just we'll just
yeah
wrap up the old
bring it to
discussion.
an end here.
Yep. Here's your team first. I'll read it out for everyone and for you as well. In goal, he has Johnston. In defense, Chilwell, Gabriel, Estupinian as the starting three. Baldock and Kabur as the backup. Rashford, Saka, Bruno, Martinelli, Diego Jota, Haaland and Pedro. That's his team. And
One thing I'd like to mention about this is I currently have 2 million in my bank,
yeah,
and I feel I mean I'm not, I'm I think there are three players over here, which is Joao Pedro, Jota, and Martinelli, who seem like I think Martinelli fairly I would be confident going with him, but Joao Pedro and Jota I feel like uh, I'm going a little punty with them, and which is why I want that 2 million in the bank. That if there is anything that I'll need to change, I can do that quickly. Maybe downgrade a Jota to an Mbumo and then Joao Pedro to a Watkins. If that, but I think the fixtures for Joao Pedro is great. That's why I've just gone with Joao Pedro. And Jota, I think Liverpool will score a few goals early on, and I think Jota, if he starts, will be a very appealing option. And I'm not 100% on them yet, and I do have a weaker bench as well. I just prefer to keep the 2 million and have players who start at the beginning and then move upon the players who I think
yes,
are going to end up as great options. And the sub goalkeeper is currently Hennessy will be Turner once he I think becomes an option. So this is where I stand at right now. With my players, I think Johnston, Chilwell, Gabriel, Estepinian, Rashford, Saka, Bruno, and Haaland are going to stay in the team
Yeah,
come game week
pretty
one.
much explanatory.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think Martinelli, I want him in my team, and he'll mostly be there. Maybe another option, Arsenal option. Maybe I might go Odegaard or something. But I think Martinelli, especially in against especially if it's a single pivot and Rice starts as the DM, I think Martinelli's minutes also go up, and I will. He's really explosive also. I think I would like to keep him as well. It's really between Jota and Pedro that is, and I'm fairly leaning towards them for now. Then I would be open to downgrading Jota to an Embumo and upgrading Joe Pedro to Watkins, which could happen from now and game week one deadline. But this is where I stand right.
I mean, I like the Jota punt here, and I'm like tempted myself to be interested in that punt. But let's see. So when I talk about my team, you'll understand where I have space. Uh, so here's what my team is looking like. It has Johnston, Ariola in goal. We have Stones, Chilwell, Gabriel, Kabure, Baldock. Pretty much template. Midfield is as template as it can be. It's Eze as of now, but I wouldn't be shy. I wouldn't shy to go Buemo or Mitoma to make it more template. Haaland, Watkins, Mumba,
Mubama.
Mubama on the top. That's how you say it. And so I have 3 options as of now. We throughout the spot I've discussed, I have 2 options. One is Watkins to Visa, Eze to Madison with 2 million in the bank. I can keep Watkins. I can do Eze to Jota, Stones to an Estupinian with zero point 0.0 in the bank. In this stuff, I think I have zero point 0.5 in the bank. But yeah, that's where I am. I'm not going Pedro, so I have to find options. I'm okay with Visa because he's a great striker. If Brentford are so what going to score, if Buemo is an option, Visa is also an option automatically for me. And I like the Jota punt for the first 2 game weeks especially, and then I can maybe think of uh, changing around stuff.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
getting
you'll get much
Madison
more
in.
information, right? I think
Yeah,
Madison in game week three from Jota is a great option,
yeah,
and
but I don't have
you'll
the
also
funds,
have
so
much more
I don't have
information.
the funds from Jota to a Madison, so I have to figure that out as well.
Jota to a Madison is a downgrade, right?
No, Jota is 7,
Jota is 8
Madison.
million.
Oh, Jota is 8
Jota
million.
is 8 million.
Oh, then I can't
Madison is
afford Jota with
7.5.
this team. I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, probably. But it's
It's
that
not. It's
downgrade.
it's a
That's why
downgrade.
I think Jota is really appealing. If he starts game week two, I think having him for the first 2 game weeks and then moving him to Madison in game week three really appeals to me. And then Madison has a set of great fixtures
Yeah,
as well.
I can
Then we'll
afford.
know
I can
more
afford.
information.
Yeah, I can afford Jota and Visa, and that probably really appeals me because if Jota does start game week 2, then I think it's paid off.
Yeah,
Even game week 1, Chelsea isn't the best of the defense you want to worry about.
yeah.
But yeah,
So yeah.
that's about it from our side. Last question, I think we had like a question about differentials. When you look at the fixtures, do you see certain differentials that you want to point out? I think Trossard is 1, Jota is 2 for me, and maybe 3 is someone like an Eze or maybe a Bowen. That's 3 actually for me. Those are the top 3 differentials.
Differential for now is someone you read from the end because it's game week one.
Yeah, ideally you shouldn't be
I
that
read the
differential.
overall percentage as well. I think then Martinelli becomes a differential for me.
Yes, true. Martin is a differential that way. I'm talking about
Yeah,
pure
and
differential in
Chilwell is
terms of
also a
differentials.
differential.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where to read about differentials right now. I think there are some which are like less than 5% owned, which could be good options. Madison is a good differential also you can look at. But there are some which are good options who play for good teams with good fixtures who are like 15%, less than 15% owned. That brings us to Martinelli. That brings us to Chilwell,
yeah,
and they are also great differentials to own. I mean, they could help you gain ranks early on. With such a low ownership, and they could also help you rise value. So I think some differentials who are historically proven who have good fixtures, I think are worth looking at, but not so bullish about the other defenders who other differentials who are around the teams. I think Bowen early on is an avoid. Later we could just I think his fixtures after game week one are not great. Yeah, I think who are
yeah.
the other ones you mentioned?
For a pure differential, I was talking about Bowen only for this game week. Again, when I specified differentials, it's only for the game week. But again, you should not be doing that ideally in game week 1. So something to monitor. We have a couple of questions in the chat. I think we've discussed Trent playing in the midfield and Stones in the midfield. I don't think Stones could continue playing in the midfield. Trent has been playing pretty much as a right back, right, as of now, especially with McAllister playing the number 6. So that's a problem.
Mm.
Second is why no Salah drafts out there. I think we made a Salah draft earlier, but again, we've given enough reasons in the previous video why we shouldn't go Salah. If you want to go Salah, we can prepare a draft and put it on Instagram, but I don't think we
Yeah,
are
yeah.
pretty much making
I
a bet on
think
that.
I think there needs to be, you need to be open to going Joao Pedro if you have,
Yeah,
or Visa if you want a Salah draft,
and also
and
a weaker midfield.
you shouldn't be compromising much on. You shouldn't compromise at all on Saka and Rashford, and not much on Martinelli and Bruno as well. I
So
think two to three of them are a must.
my advice for people who want to go Salah or Kane is switch to a 4-4-2 formation rather than a four
Yeah,
five one 3-4-5-2 or a 3-4-1 or
yeah.
something. four
Four
five one
four
sorry
four two and 4-5-1
are
formations
ideally the
with
better
Salah.
formations to
Yeah,
take
they are the
Salah and
better
Kane.
form.
Yeah,
Where I think, for example, you can have a Shaw or a Stones as the fourth defender, along with Chilwell, Gabriel Estepinian, and then you have four defenders who are solid, and then you can have another four
yeah.
midfielders. I guess you can have
And even like
Salah, Rashford, Saka, Martinelli, and then two forwards also, which is a good draft to have.
you can go for a 4.5 million defender as well who can give you decent
Yeah,
output. So that's
yeah.
not the worst like
There are a few Salah
formation.
drafts I came up with, which you can put up on Instagram and you can take a look at.
Yep.
So I would, yeah, I think we can do that. The other question Garnacho is pulled up. I think Garnacho is
I
good
mean,
to
I like him
start
as a
the first few
differential. He'll
games.
start the first few
Yeah,
games actually,
first few
but
games I think he'll start,
he's
and
only a first game.
he looks lively. I think he looks better than Sancho to start as well. But once Rasmus Højlund comes in, I
Yeah,
think Rashford moves to the left and Højlund goes inside. Another player from United also is Anthony, who's probably a differential
I
who could be
I
comfortable.
would never
But
never.
I think just more proven are Rashford and Bruno. I think they are worth much more the extra money. So I just go there. Finally, I think let's just touch upon captaincy for game week one. If you can
Yeah,
pull off the, yeah, I think
I don't think
probably
we have
mostly
like a
Haaland.
graphic, but let's break the news. It's Haaland for me. I don't think so. I'm going anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm just too afraid to go away from Haaland. But
It's just I don't think it's
genuinely, if you
sensible.
think there are options, I think there are three.
No.
uh, Haaland, Saka, and Rashford. I mean, I'm
I
saying
mean that
good
way we can think
options
about
for game
options
week
like
one.
even Salah could be an option, but do you genuinely believe that they can match Haaland's output is the question.
In game week one, probably because they have fixtures uh, which are capable. But I wouldn't be so confident
Yeah,
going against
I,
Haaland because
that's the
his
point.
CEO will just be insane, and game week one is not the time to prove. I think Haaland against Burnley is a
I
fairly
don't.
good fixture
Yeah,
for Haaland to get a haul. But if you are brave enough to go against, I think I'd see a good haul potential for both Rashford and Saka in their respective fixtures.
I
So I'm saying outside Haaland, if you want a shout, it's probably Saka and Rashford. But don't go away from
I
Haaland
wouldn't
because
even recommend another alternative shout. I would
yeah,
just say stick to Haaland.
yeah, I'm just recommending because it look at a good team and their main player with a good fixture at home, right? So that's always something which you look at. But again, I think don't go away from Haaland, at least not at the beginning of the season. You don't need to lag behind after game week one just because you didn't captain Haaland. So I'd say
There's no
captaining
fun in
Haaland.
that.
I'll be captaining Haaland. I wouldn't be thinking too much about it as well.
Yep. And that's it. I think we've covered most
Yeah.
questions on Instagram that are out, most like important questions this ahead of this game week. If there's something up, there's some dynamic that changes, we'll come up with a short video or like we will obviously address it in the deadline stream. But yeah,
Deadline stage, yes.
that's it for now. We will see you guys on the deadline stream. Again, thanks Abin Thomas on who did all the graphics on Twitter. He's at the Abin Thomas _10. You can go find him there as well. He does a lot of these graphics, and I think we'll see more of him on our channel as well. So if you like that, you can also subscribe to our channel and hit the like button too. Overall, if in the video you like something, please consider subscribing to our channel.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're just close to 3K, and
Yeah,
we'd
we're
like to
really
reach
close to
there by the
3K.
start of the season.
Yep. If you guys could
So
push, that would be really helpful.
yeah,
Okay,
that's
and
about
on
it.
that note, we'll wrap it up, guys. Thank you guys for joining the game week one preview stream. This is FBA Tips team signing off. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.